Are you good?
Yep.
All right, here we go.
How do you develop the faculties of your mind for the accumulation of great wealth, not just wealth, but great wealth without specialized knowledge? Hi, my name is Ann McNeil, and I am the Master Wealth Builder, helping to build stronger and better lives and businesses. And we are going to delve into that conversation today. We are discussing the principle of specialized knowledge from the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And that principle has given so very many people the opportunity to gain great wealth. And as we kick this specialized knowledge principle conversation off, I really would like to invite each of you to think about individuals that you know who have accumulated great wealth with their specialized knowledge. One of the first people that came up for me was Warren Buffett. What is his specialized knowledge? How about Bill Gates? What about Zuckerberg? What about Ali? What about Tiger Woods? So think about your specialized knowledge as we embark upon this subject and really begin to talk about why it works, but for the accumulation of great riches, not just money, but great riches. Yes, I could do this podcast all by myself, but I'm not here alone today. And I'd like to introduce you to our special guest in just a moment. But I'm going to introduce our co host, starting with Galen Bingham. Good morning, Galen. How are you this morning?
I am doing incredibly well, calling in from a non-disclosed location. Uh, I'm actually at a park right outside of close to my home because the power went out in my home. And so when the power went out, I had a choice between going back to bed because I mean there's no power, or finding a location where I could still be part of this conversation because I believe the bigger the barrier, the bigger the blessing. So this is an incredible conversation. Can't wait to hear from our guests. Anna, I want to read something to you because this really did bring my imagination to the forefront. And when I read this, I want the audience to pretend like this wasn't written in 1937. Pretend like this is Warren Buffett sharing with you insights as to how to be successful. And so here are the words. The changed economic conditions that now prevail have made it necessary for thousands of people to find additional or new sources of income. For the majority of these, the solution to their problem may be found only by acquiring specialized knowledge. And that's at the foundation of what we're going to be talking about. That's at the foundation of this entire philosophy, I believe. How do you tap into those areas where you've got some knowledge, And if you turn up the dial, it could be specialized knowledge that the world is willing to compensate you for. I can't wait to get into this. I can't wait to hear from our guest.
All right. Well, before I introduce Peter, Dr. James, I do want to give everybody an opportunity to uh, comment, like, and share, but also subscribe. But also reach out to at least three people that you know, because you will want to hear from the wisdom broker today, none other than Wyman Wimbush. I'm going to introduce him properly in just a few moments, but I really want to give everybody an opportunity before we bring him on camera, because once he gets rolling, you cannot rewind. You can rewind the video, but you cannot rewind his comments. So quickly make sure you comment, like, and share, subscribe, but also reach out to two or three individuals that you know that would really, really benefit from this conversation. So, Dr. Peter James, good morning. How are you this
Good
morning?
morning to you there, Ann McNeil. Good morning to you there, Galen. Good to see everybody this morning as we delve back into this chapter. Napoleon Hill says the accumulation of great fortune calls for power, and power is acquired through highly organized and intelligently directed specialized knowledge. But that knowledge does not necessarily have to be in the possession of the individual who accumulates the fortune. Good morning, folks. As you're watching this show this morning, please look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what does this specialized knowledge mean to me? What does it look like for me? What is my specialized knowledge as I continue to step forward? And what might it need to be as I align with my goals and my objectives already? So, and you're right, this is going to be a phenomenal show. We have, oh wow, the wisdom broker here to bless us with some wisdom around specialized knowledge. So we'll see.
All right, all right. So come on, Wyman Wimbush to the front. Uh, Known as the Wisdom Broker, Wyman has been a guest here for a number of times, and every time we tell him we got to have you back. 31 years in corporate America, 30 years in the U.S. Navy, 25 years in the ministry to help individuals and corporations identify the most direct path, wow, to sustain success. Good morning, Wyman. And
Good morning,
so,
Ann, Peter, and Galen. Good morning, everyone in the audience. It's a great day to be here, even if you're in the park, Galen.
well, listen, let me tee this up and let everybody know some pre-conversation we had before the podcast started. So why, when you think about Wyman, he has a plethora of experiences. And I would like to challenge each of you, if you're an expert in many different things, you do every single one of them very well. This principle will challenge you to your core. And we talked with Wyman prior to podcast starting and saying, who better than you? Who better than you to peel back the onion and really, really, when we were children, we used to say, get butt naked. No pun intended, not really that. But my point is, let's tell the real truth about this principle, because so often we want to be all things to all people, not realizing that we're nobody to everybody, because everybody's listening to that same radio station called What's in It for Me. Are you scratching where I'm itching? So can you share with us, just kind of go back to the beginning of your experiences in this principle, and share with us when you began, first time you really began to realize there was such a thing called specialized knowledge in your career.
Yes, thank you, Ann, for that intro. And let me tell you, thank you for putting me on blast and out in the spotlight like that. I don't care, because if it benefits humanity, I'm all about it, right? And so what you mentioned was, if you look at my background, I talk about, it's interesting how your mind, right, will justify its position, right? And so Jack of all trades, master of none. Wyman comes back with, but often preferred over a master of one. In other words, I'm justifying the fact that I'm not specialized, right? And the challenge is I've been a helicopter pilot and instructor. I've been a sales school teacher and instructor. I've been a pastor of men and teacher, right? I have a great deal of interest in the brain, how the brain functions. Talk about the neuroplasticity and neurogenesis of the brain. I can go a lot of places, but you know what? Specialists get paid more than generalists. I don't care what profession you're in. Specialists get paid more than generalists, and I'm challenged with finding out what exactly one thing that I do well is the one thing that I need to do well for the audience that I serve. And it was what Ann said, you know all this and all that, but hey, what's in it for me? And you got to answer that question. Let me put it this way: when I counsel people going to school, Gail, I know you got one in college right now. I say the purpose of college is not to get a 4-year degree. The purpose of college is accumulate a set of skills that maximizes the value you bring to the marketplace. Which means you may not get a degree at all, because in some professions, you can get a certificate connoting a specialization of knowledge in a specific area and make more money than someone with a 4-year degree. It's that accumulation of specialized knowledge applied to a specific niche in the marketplace that it's in high demand. The greater the specialization and the greater your ability to apply it in an area that's in big demand, in other words, law, supply, and demand still works. For example, brain surgeons, you'll never see a starving brain surgeon sale, but you see starving artist sales all the time. So you can be a specialist in the art realm area, but you can't transmute that into money because their artists are everywhere. Brain surgeons are very few. And oh, by the way, when you need brain surgery, nobody goes in to negotiate what the price is. They tell you what the price is. So that's an example of, even in going through college or going through vocation, you need to specialize, figure out what you do well, but not only what you do well that there's a demand for in the marketplace. And as Ann points out, that you're meeting someone's need. In other words, you're answering the question, what does it do for me? That's Wyman's WDIDFM. Tune in, everybody does. WDIDFM, what does it do for me? And if you can't clearly answer that question, you're not specialized enough, or maybe need to look at it again.
Okay, now I am the master wealth builder. And for all of you that know me, pray for me, because Wyman just teed me up, and I see Galen smiling, and Peter is probably smiling because they read my message in the chat. So Wyman, you can read my message in the chat. Now, do I tell everybody or do we rewind?
The question. All right, can I tell everybody what you said in the chat?
Yes. Yes.
Wyman, you did not answer my question. Okay.
Okay, everybody, let's go back. We're all family, and we're here for each and every one of you sitting on the other side of this camera. You see, I have been in the construction industry for 45 years, and it took me 25 years before I got this principle to understand I'm not just in the business of the business of the business of construction. I'm in the business of money in the construction industry. And where's the money? This principle clearly says that specialized knowledge is only beneficial in the pursuit of accumulation of great wealth, not just wealth, but great wealth. So my question to Wyman is, when did he first begin to realize this principle in his life? Now, I can answer the question for him in case he may have amnesia, but I won't do that. So I want each of you to think about this. This is so powerful because when you get it, for example, I had a conversation yesterday with one of our members of the National Association of Black Women in Construction, and I was explaining to her, where is the money in this industry when you specialize? But don't just specialize in your craft. Don't just specialize in your business. Don't just specialize in the industry. Don't just specialize in your relationships, but specialize in the money in the industry, in the business, and in the relationship. And then once you begin to do that, this whole principle is about a mindset shifting for the accumulation of wealth. And so we can do a lot of things for a long period of time and not make as much money as some people who get it quicker, and the bottom line profit is increased through the roof. So we won't start talking about the funnels and all of those things. That again is specialized knowledge in one thing, because Napoleon Hill tells us we do not need to be in possession of the information. And Peter just said that you do not need to be in possession of the specialized knowledge. You can buy it. So, wisdom broker, when was your first realization that there was such a thing in your experience called specialized knowledge, and you needed to niche to be rich in your craft? When was that, please?
I can tell you unequivocally, without any doubt, it was in the mastermind, Think and Grow Rich Mastermind, when we went over chapter 4 on, specialized knowledge. And that it is a mindset, as you mentioned. It's not just about acquiring skills. It's acquiring skills in pursuit of wealth. Because everybody who is smart isn't wealthy.
Say that. Can you say that again, wisdom broker?
Everybody who's smart isn't wealthy.
That's right.
Right. And so when you combine the two, you take a different path. Your focus shifts. That's so, yes, the mastermind, this book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
All right, I'm gonna lighten up on you for a moment. I'm gonna go to Galen as Peter prepares the 13 principles, because we really want everybody to take a step back and really look at how do these principles connect with each other for the accumulation of wealth for you as you specialize. And when I opened up, I asked the question, and I'm gonna ask the question again. How do you develop the faculties of your own mind, your consciousness, your subconscious? How do you develop that? How do you develop that in the pursuit of the accumulation of wealth without specializing your knowledge? And can you think of anybody who has done that? And if you cannot, why would we want to be the first one to do that? So, Peter, if you tee up, please, the video, the 13 principles, and Galen is going to share it for us in terms of his thoughts, and then we will be right back. But in the meantime, I really want to remind all of you that if, in case you just came on, we are speaking with the phenomenal WYMAN WINBUSH. And he is known in the industry as the wisdom broker. He is a professional speaker, trainer, and he's working on that book. He's been sharing nuggets with audiences for over 25 years. The topics include how to achieve a high performance mindset, which is what we're discussing today, resilience, overcoming the imposter syndrome, and so many, many, many other subjects. So stay tuned, but make sure you subscribe. And while we're watching this video, text and call somebody and tell them they must come on and listen. All right, Galen?
Yeah, so as we prepare to listen to the 13 principles, one of the things that I'm always impressed with about this philosophy is that each of the principles are significant and powerful by themselves. That's how we can spend an entire month talking about just one of those principles. But the real power, as you listen to these principles, the real power, in my opinion, is the connective tissue that connects everything, the skeleton that everything hangs on, and how these work together in order to create your ability, my ability, Ann's ability, everyone's ability to achieve success on purpose. So take a look at this, but apply these principles in a reflective, in a reflection activity against your life and your success. How do I leverage all of these together in order to achieve success on purpose?
Number 1 is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the mastermind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the Wild Wild West days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
And there you have it, all 13 principles. And again, think about how all of these connect. The value of each of them are very, very powerful, but the connection in pursuit of achieving a specific goal. And if it's okay, I'd love to ask our guests one of the first questions, because this is something that I am often thinking about in my own life. So, Wyman, how in the world did it come to your mind that you can monetize and that you can add value from the perspective of sharing wisdom? Wisdom is not necessarily new information. It might be a new articulation of simple truths, but wisdom is usually something that everyone has seen before, everyone understands, everyone believes. They might not understand it, but they believe. But you found a way to monetize brokering wisdom, and that from on the surface that doesn't seem like something that people would be willing to pay for. But when you think more deeply, I see exactly why you've been so successful. So talk a little bit about how you've been able to, and where did it first come into your mind that wisdom was something that you could broker and actually make a living from?
That's a great question, Galen. First of all, if you look at wisdom, what it is, first of all, there's information. You can get information and not understand the information. I mean, we all know in school, we have studied for a test, passed the test, but didn't really understand it, right? So the test validates that you have the information, but you still need to understand the information, in other words, how to apply it. But everyone who understands it, matter of fact, there's some professors who teach how to become wealthy and are not wealthy. See, it's the information, knowledge is not power. It's the appropriate application of knowledge that makes it powerful. And that is putting that understanding, that revelation, information, knowledge into action. That's wisdom. And so I can talk to people who may know more about a particular subject, but they're not wise in their application of it. An example, we go to hospitals all the time and we see nurses and doctors outside smoking. Come on, right? That's not wise. And so if I can show someone a wiser way to apply what they already know to enrich their lives physically, mentally, financially, otherwise, that is of value to them. And they're willing to exchange their resources for the wisdom that I can impart to them.
Wow, wow. I love it. I love it. And it sounds a lot, Dr. Peter, like what we do as coaches, helping executives, helping people understand how to apply usually the information that they already have, right? Very seldom are we teaching people how to do things. It's usually leveraging their wisdom, leveraging their information in order to be more effective. But Dr. Peter, what are your thoughts here?
I was digesting all of this there, Galen, and I want to go to Wyman. Wyman, before the discussion, before this show, we had an robust discussion beforehand about all the things that you are so phenomenal at or have been. Do you mind rehashing that? And the reason I'm asking that a little bit is because I know our audience members, when we kind of narrow down to specialized knowledge or that one thing, sometimes that can be challenging for many. Sometimes that can be just a stopping point to a certain extent that they don't know where to go with that. That being said, I would love to hear what that journey has looked like for you, if you could, a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Yeah, I've struggled with this myself, and Ann knows it. That's why Ann's smiling, probably. Yeah, so I spent 30 years in the Navy. I was a helicopter pilot, a flight instructor, leadership instructor in the Navy. 22 of those years were in parallel with being in IBM, sales manager, leader, customer facing, managing a target north of $100 million a year. right? And so you learn how to coach and manage and lead people, negotiation skills all come in there. And then as part of my faith, pastor of men, leading men, growing them spiritually, discipling them, right? Doing that. Man, that is a broad spectrum, and there's a specialization thread in there someplace, right? And so which one do you do? Because when people meet you, Gail, and they say, "Oh, you must be a pastor. Oh, or you must be a pilot." Well, I am, but that isn't the specialization that I need for the very reasons we discussed. If you had to put a shingle outside your door, what would be on it? You can't put everything on it. And that's the challenge. Because when people are looking, right? Okay, come on, I'm gonna steal this from a sage that I heard say this. When you're hungry, you don't look for a restaurant that says food. You look for Italian, you look for Japanese, you look for Chinese, you look for a specialty area. You have an appetite for a specific thing. And when people in the marketplace are figuring out there, hey, what does it do for me? They have something specific in mind. And if your shingle says generalist or food, they're going to pass you by until they find the shingle that is exactly what they need at that moment. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I wonder how we, like, for me, even, I could go down the list very similar. Officer in the military, sales and marketer, um, college professor, entrepreneur. The narrowed down journey for everyone, is it important for them to take a step back and ask, hey, what are they most passionate about to a certain extent? Is that maybe what happened for you a little bit?
Absolutely. I believe passion is tied to your gift and your purpose, right? And so you can do many things, but only one thing, one specific area lines up directly with the problem you were placed on earth to solve. Let me back. I believe just like we all have a unique set of fingerprints, we also have a neat set of skills. And those skills are directly in proportion to the problem that we're trying to solve or we're born to solve. In other words, if you've ever been on a flight or something, you sit next to someone, they don't know you from Adam, and then they start telling you their issues and you solve their problem right there, right? Now, what are the chances that this person with an issue would sit right next to you and you just happen to have the breadth of knowledge and experience to address their specific need? I don't believe in coincidence. I call it divine providence. And I believe that if you're passionate about something, this is the law of attraction also in work. If you're the answer, you'll attract the people that need that answer, right? If you're passionate about something, people will gravitate you who have a need for the information or the solution that you have. And so it's a two-way street. You're attracted to them, you need each other in that sense.
Love it. Love the conversation there. And I'm gonna head it back over to you as we dive on into this specialized knowledge with the wisdom broker who's dropping a lot of knowledge on us today.
Yes, Wyman, I want to go back to your first introduction to the book. I like to always ask our guests, because I think it's critical that we share with the audience this journey. So can you share with us, what was your first introduction, not to the principle, but to the book itself?
A great question, Anne. I believe, I've been a member of NSA for almost 25 years now. And at one of those meetings, I ran into the master wealth builder, none other than Anne McNeil. And she talked to me about the book and got me interested in reading it. And then I ended up in the Black NSA $1 Million Mastermind, which goes over the book. However, I'm put a comma there. When my dad moved in with us. My dad's 95. He's living with us now. And we were cleaning out his house. I found a copy of the book, Think and Grow Rich. I got it right here. It's this version. This was my mom's, right? I didn't know she was reading the book. So my introduction to the book really was through my interaction with my mother, right? Because if you walking out the principles of the book, you don't have to read the book to see the book. And anyone who knows you, never having picked up the book, have seen and read Think and Grow Rich, because you walk out the precepts and principles and you put them in action. So that was my introduction of the book.
By example, Peter put something in the chat that said that many people, now I get it right here. He said, and many of the individuals who are wealthy are not necessarily smart. And I think that what you just shared with me helped me to better understand how these principles really are biblical principles. And oftentimes we see them in our families and we see them in a lot of different places. We don't call them what we call them here, right? The genesis of the principles are still the same. So even though your mother, was reading the book, but she was, I would assume, was also demonstrating the principles.
Yes.
And so when you came into, and for those of you that are wondering what is NSA, he's referring to the National Speakers Association. And inside of the National Speakers Association, we have what we call Black NSA. So these are Black speakers inside the National Speakers Association. And you can Google this and you can go there and get more information. But what is interesting for me, Wyman, and I did not know that my introducing you to the book was your first introduction, but can you take us back though? And I'm gonna stick to this question and keep coming back to this because I think it's so critical for all of us to understand we're all on a journey. We're all on a journey with these principles. We're all on a journey, and being on that journey, to me, this information is like an onion that just keeps peeling back, wisdom, if you will, knowledge, if you will, understanding, if you will. But it keeps taking us back to, I say, the other book, right? Can you share with us one of the struggles you're having with this principle, specific struggle you're having with this principle in your business? And we kind of teed this up a little bit before the podcast started, and I shared with you that I think is very important for our audience to know that we're all on this journey together. And I just shared a few minutes ago, it took me 25 years of reading the book, reading the principle, to really begin to understand how to apply it in my own business, right? I have 5 businesses and each one is different. So can you share with us an example of a struggle for you? And I'm going to go around to each of the co-hosts. So Galen, Peter, get ready. Because I think it's so critical that we share the truth. This is a journey. It's not a destination, because even though you may find, what you think is your specialized knowledge, you may also find that the community, if you will, your clients, if you will, they will actually tell you what you do for them. And when you hear many of them saying the same thing, then you begin to realize, well, I thought it was A, but it's actually Z. So where's the money in all of it? And that's the conversation we had earlier, because we can do a lot of things, but where is the money? Can you give us an example of maybe something you were doing, you thought it was your specialized knowledge, but you found out it wasn't making any money, and then you had to go where the money was? Can you give us an example?
Give an example. Well, you just defined the struggle.
No,
Right,
yours,
right.
that was mine. That was mine.
We share a common struggle. You have what we call multiple streams of income, right? You have 5 different businesses, 5 different, many different areas of expertise that people are willing to exchange their capital for in exchange. But to narrow it down to one, if I were to put figuring out what that one phrase would be on the shingle that I hang outside the door of my life to say, this is my specialization, struggling with what to put on that shingle, if you would, on that handle. And just by example, I taught a negotiation class last week, but during the negotiation class, I went through the ABCs of stress because I asked them, how many get nervous before you go to negotiation? And then I talked about the yoga power stances and the energy that you get and how profitable it is for you to take that posture and take that positive energy in, right? In other words, I'm tapping into the book Think and Grow Rich. I quoted it many times, doing it. Why? Because it's part of me, right? And so I get out, that was a negotiation class, but that's not all I delivered during the class. And then people said that. Matter of fact, someone's came up and said, hey, thank you for the word when I finished. I wasn't preaching. It wasn't a sermon, right? It wasn't a Bible study. But through the course of it, while I was delivering the principles of getting to yes, that classic negotiation skills book, someone heard the gospel. Someone heard advice and counsel on how to work with their children, to bring the best out of them. It was a negotiation class, and that's what they were paying me for that day. But how do I articulate and brand the experience that they had? And I'm getting towards that because of my affirmation. In exchange for my monetary goal, I will deliver the wisdom broker experience. It's an experience. You can't define, well, you can't get your arms around it but you know it when you see it. But how to monetize that? That's what I'm struggling.
Excellent. Thank you. Galen, struggle.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's much like what Peter said, much like what Ann said. Wyman, I could take out some specifics in your story and tell that same story, and it would apply to me. And just this morning, in preparing for this conversation, I found something in the book on page 88 that, for me, describe what it is that I do. And you might use this too, Wyman. It says, I believe that close association with one who refuses to compromise with circumstances he does not like is an asset that can never be measured in terms of money. And that is specifically what I do. I couldn't find a label for it. Because if you're just a coach, there's a specific process that you have to follow. And I don't want to be limited by that process. If you're just a consultant, there's a process that you're supposed to follow. And I don't want to be limited by that. If you're just a Christian, there's some specific things that you're supposed to do and some specific things that you're not supposed to do. And do you have the ability to apply all of your resources, all of your assets in the service of someone trying to accomplish a goal? And one of the things I want to share, one last thing I want to share is one of my favorite realizations is that how I make money is a great question to ask. It's just not a very good first question. It's a great question to ask. It's just not a very good first question. The first question should be, how can I be in service? How can I add value? And once I add value, once I know what was that radio station that we got
WDID FM.
That's right.
What does it do for me?
Once we know the station that we need to turn into, and we can tune into, and we can hear what's going on that station, maybe a good second or third question is, how do I make money from it? But how do I be of service? If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, if you're on YouTube and you believe that there have been, if you've heard one thing, just one thing that you believe will help you be more successful in whatever your calling is in life, I'm going to encourage you to do a couple things. Number one, I want you to find that thumbs up button, that thumbs up icon underneath the video on YouTube, and hit that thumbs up, because that lets everyone know that we're doing something of value on this channel, that they need to pay attention to it. And then when you hear Wyman say something, you're like, oh my gosh, like I've been doing, I can't really have the conversation because I'm writing notes. hit that 100, hit that heart icon to let Wyman know that that was valuable. But be sure you hit that thumbs up, share, subscribe, and get someone else in this conversation.
All right, Dr. Peter.
Such a interesting conversation, even an interesting question. And my answer is a little bit different because I'm on a quest. I'm on a quest to become specialized, to narrow it down. And here's what I mean by that. You're right. I've had many careers, many different things I've done over the course of my life. And as I've dove into this business, this focus, this entrepreneurial ventures that I've been on, my goal has been to narrow it down so that my customers specifically, or potential customers, always have 100% clarity about who I am, what my businesses do, and what they'll do for them. And those of you who have been in business sometimes know that that narrowed down focus, which kind of can become your specialty, is challenging to get to because we do so many things. We think we do so many things great. So I'm on a quest to always narrow down even more, to identify what my specialty. So my specialty is executive and leadership coaching, but that even is a little bit broad, right? So what am I doing for that individual who's in front of me, for that organization who's in front of me? So one of the things that we talk about in my organization is we help strengthen organizational cultures. We do it 3 specific ways, right? So I'm getting narrower and narrower. And what does that mean for me from a specialty perspective? Again, I do so much different stuff: emotional intelligence, shifting your mindset, providing assessments. I could do so many different things, but that's neither here nor there. How am I able to narrow it down for that individual who I'm talking to right in front of me? And those of you who are watching or listening, how are you narrowing down your specialized knowledge to dive more into it, to become good at just that one thing, even though you might need to pull from some of your other specialties from before in different parts or different times in your life? What is that one thing? Galen you and I know about that one thing for sure. But now, if you're listening, what is that one thing overall?
I love it. I love it. I love it. And I want to ask everybody who is listening in on YouTube, if you, first of all, thank you so very much for joining us. Doretha, Charles Bright, Jason, Shannon, Colette, and of course, Wyman is here. So thank you all for coming on to support him. Smitty, you too. Thank you. We would like to have you put any questions you may have or comments in the chat because we do want to support Wyman. We want to also encourage all of you to consider coming on the podcast and sharing your favorite principle with us. And I want to go back to principle number 1. Everything that we have shared so far takes us back to principle number 1. And what is principle number 1? Principle number 1 is, what is your desire? Mm-hmm. You see, what is specialized knowledge if you do not have a desire? Now, of course, the author talks about a desire. He says that specialized knowledge, no matter how great a quantity or variety it may be, is but little use in the accumulation of money. But I want to go back to everything that Peter, Galen, and Wyman has shared. We may not know exactly what we're specializing in, but one test I would like to suggest that you can use is take that skill and put it to the test in comparison with the amount of money you're desiring. Let me give an example. When I coach my clients who are desiring to make money and they tell me what they want to do, we do an exercise. You take the amount of money, it's exactly in the book that Napoleon has. You take that amount of money that you're desiring, let's say it's $100. Exactly what are you going to do? Here we go with the skill set. Take everything you've heard so far. What skill are you going to use to make that money? And I'll share with my experience when many of you have heard me talk about December 31st, 1979, I wanted to save $1,000. That was number one. Question number one, he asked me, how much money do I want? And so, Wyman, I'm going to come back to you with the question, how much money do you want? And then we're going to prepare to wrap up because it is 10 minutes left in the podcast, right? But the second question the author asks us all, Peter, Galen, Wyman, and what are you going to do to make the money? So take all of these questions that we have in our mind about, I do this, I do this, I do this. Yes, okay, that's fine. That's what you're going to do to make the amount of money. Ann McNeil, Wyman. But the third question he asks, what date you want the money by? To me, this is how you can vet your specialized knowledge. And if you're listening to this in the future, because I asked the question, how can you, think about it for your mind. How do you develop the faculties of your mind to help you achieve your desired amount of money without specializing your knowledge? And that's the exercise we must all go through. But the third question he asked when he said, how much, doing what, by when, where's the plan of action to take that? And then determine if you can make that amount of money with that skill, with that trade, with that industry, with that profession. And what I found was that I could not. I couldn't make the money. And that is the test that I've continued to use every time I have an idea, every time somebody has a great business, when I'm analyzing stocks, any of those things. If you're talking about making money, now, if you're talking about doing something else, chances are it requires money, but just use that as a test. Right now, we're going to go to Wyman and talk about the annual meeting. Wyman, since you have been, we would like, Peter to tee up the video, not the video, but the JPEG. We have a phenomenal opportunity every single year. We would like to encourage each and every one of you as you listen to us. Where do you go to be held accountable on an annual basis? So Wyman, can you share with us why it is important for people to consider coming, and what was your experience first, second, or third time that you came?
Well, the operative word there is accountability. Accountability, right? As I mentioned, Peter, again, we were both in sales, and you have weekly sales calls with your leadership team. Here's your goal. How far are you towards getting it? If you're falling short, what adjustments are you going to make to make it up? And tell me exactly what you're going to deliver. What if someone had a weekly sales call for your life? What if once a year you gathered and you stood before someone to answer those questions? What did you say you want to deliver last year? What did you do towards it? If you fell short, what adjustments are you going to make for going forward? And what is your goal coming up? Accountability. There is no sustained success without personal accountability, period. Right? And this meeting just, first of all, you're surrounded by people with a like mindset. And that alone provides some energy to get you where you need to be. So, Ann, I would highly recommend, don't wait, get it now. Early bird gets the worm, as they say. And you're on mute.
Thank you. You must have known the investment was going up. And for all of you that's interested, you can go to the International Masterminders with an S.com, and you can get the details there. It's the first weekend in January, and we're very excited. We have a new leader this year that's planning everything. I'm not going to share who she is and what she does, but she's an expert in this space, and it's going to be one of the best we have ever had. And so now we're going to go around and have first Galen, then Peter, then Wyman share who you are, how people can connect with you. And I don't know where the time went, but it is out. All right, Galen, Peter, then Wyman.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Another incredible conversation. I learned so much every time I get to hang out with the wisdom broker, Wyman Winbush. And I think that for me was a reinforcing point here. Who do you hang out with, right? Who do you surround yourself with? Are you not just with like-minded people, but people who will not allow you to settle for something less than who you say you are. And very often, Wyman, you talked about being in sales and sales leadership, and a big part of my experience, and I sense yours as well, is having a team and having people on your team, and you see more in them than they see for themselves. Can you find people who will drive that for you? That's why I go out of my way to make sure that I'm here every Saturday morning, even if there's no power in my home, because this is the place for that. So, Wyman, thank you so much for continuing to do what you do the way that you do it, with all the resources that you leverage in order to be successful. My name is Galen Bingham. I am the leadership strategist. I help executives bake success into their work and life. So many ways to get a hold of me, but the fun way, the best way, is to follow me on the Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership podcast. We're on every podcast platform. We help leaders talk about the whiskeys that they drink, the music they listen to, and what they believe it really takes to be an effective leader. I double dog dare you to try us at least once. Guarantee you're going to find something that'll help you be more successful.
All right, Dr. James.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Great conversation. I'm very similarly to you and Galen there. And I looked down at the clock and I was like, oh my goodness, we almost at the end here. And that just reflects the richness of the conversation that we were having. So thank you so much there, Mr. Wisdom Broker, there, for this great conversation. So many different gems that resonated with me, and I sometimes just need that boost, that reflection, that deep dive into what I know, but I gotta go deeper. And Wyman said some things there. One of the things that really resonated with me is, those who are smart are mostly not wealthy. And so what does that mean? Because sometimes in our brains that we think we have to be the smartest person in the room, or we have to measure up to others who we deem to be smart, when that's not necessarily the case. What is your one thing? What is your specialized knowledge? That's probably what we need to keep going back to in order to sharpen that saw and then be able to provide for our customers, our colleagues, or whoever the case may be, for sure. So thank you all. My name is Dr. Peter A. James. I am the high performance coach helping you to shift your mindset. You can find me at shiftyourmindset.com. And also on LinkedIn at Dr. Peter A. James. That's at DrPeterAJames. Mr. Wyman WINBUSH, the Wisdom Broker, do you mind taking us home a little bit?
Just a thought. There's a scripture, Apostle Paul was saying he presses towards the mark of the high calling, which is, that's his goal, his burning desires to get there. And basically says he's not yet arrived. And what Ann shared with us, 25 years trying to get there, me as many years trying to get to that specialized point, that pinpoint exact, still working. But here's the deal. Every morning I wake, I press towards the mark, knowing that I will not obtain it, but also knowing that when I lay my head down on my pillow tonight, I'll be closer to getting there than when I woke up. It's that persistence that delivers. There's this persistence that yields fruit. And that's where we are. My name is Wyman WINBUSH, the Wisdom Broker. You can find me on LinkedIn, on the WYMAN. As a matter of fact, there's an article there I would wish you would go to. You'll see so many principles of Think and Grow Rich in there. As we talk about Raven Johnson, the young lady that played for South Carolina. Last year, she was absolutely embarrassed by Caitlin Clark because as a freshman, she didn't have game. And Caitlin Clark in the middle of the game said, I'm not even going to guard you. And that went viral. And she had an opportunity to throw in the towel, join a permanent pity party where that tape was going over and over again. And she transmuted that moment from anger into the fuel that allowed her to pursue a championship on this year. And she, at that moment, called it the revenge tour. This whole season was called a revenge tour. It became a year's worth of poster board material to not only motivate her, but the entire locker room. And Galen, one of the things she said was, who's in your locker room matters. When she wanted to give in, she looked up and saw teammates that would not let her quit. So who's in your locker room? Who's on your bus, to your point? It matters. And that's why the accountability meeting and is so important, because everyone in that virtual locker room, when you meet in South Florida in January, will not allow you to quit. Who's around you matters. Again, Wyman at wymanwinbush.com is my WYMAN at wymanwinbush.com is my email address. wymanwinbush.com is my uh, address on the internet there. And then you can always find me on Facebook. Also, I'm there. And this is what you don't know. In October of this year, we booked a 6-bedroom, 6-bath Airbnb. We're doing a retreat for couples. It's a high end, and we're going to do it the divine way and figure out what a godly relationship should look like. So that's a retreat that we're planning here right off. By the way, it's 3 blocks off the beach. So look for more details on that.
I love it. Listen, everybody, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube. Make sure you replay this to get the gems from the wisdom broker. Wyman, you left the best for last. You left the best for last. And that is what you do. That is your specialized knowledge. And that is bringing everything you do together. And I would just like to read for many of you. Wyman shares, and I don't know if you realize this, Wyman, you actually share in your bio who you serve. And I just want to wrap up with this. Wyman, and I'm just going to read your bio. It says, the wisdom broker Wyman combines 31 years in corporate and 30 years in the Navy, 25 years in the ministry. Here we go. This is what you do, Wyman. And with your beautiful bride, this is who you are. This is your specialized knowledge. Is used to help individuals and corporations identify the most direct path to sustained success. Can I read that again for everybody? Who is Wyman WINBUSH as the wisdom broker? He uses his wisdom to help individuals and corporations identify the most direct path to sustained success. And he is using the platform called a retreat for couples to help them have that sustained success. So for all of you that's listening, please connect with Wyman, especially if you desire a spiritual experience for sustained success in your business and your life with the wisdom broker and his wife. All right. My name is Ann McNeil, and I am the Master Wealth Builder, helping you to build a stronger and better life and business. And if you would like to connect with me, you can go to your cell phone, which I'm going to ask you to take your phone right now, pull it out, and text the number 59925. Text the number 59925. And in the chat, just put the name or the word "and," that's ANN. And I will send you back my 6-point business plan, which wraps all of these principles up together. We have had a phenomenal podcast today. I'm also suggesting, as you think about starting and running a successful mastermind group, connect with me and let's talk about my book, which is called The McNeil Factor: How to Start and Run a Successful Mastermind Group. Until next time, I want to remind everybody, subscribe to the YouTube, but join us here every single Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Wyman, you've been a phenomenal guest as always, and we're glad to have you on this side of the camera, right? On this side of the podcast. And we thank you so very much for joining. Peter and Galen, as always, I don't think we can get any better co-hosts than the two of you. And Yes, Galen, you pressed your way today and you made it work anyway. So thank you, everybody. We will see all of you next time. And until then, please remember to continue to think and grow richer. Everybody have a great day.